Jacob Rees-Mogg this afternoon has suggested, as I expected he probably would, that the Conservatives and Reform should link up. There should be an electoral pact that would... This reflects a growing tendency in the right-wing factions in British politics about their electoral viability. The Conservative Party, as it stands today, is not going to get elected again. Reform UK hasn't got enough hasn't got enough members of the House of Commons to get elected into office. An electoral pact seems a credible option. I think the much more credible option is for the people who feel they sympathise so much with Reform UK to join Reform UK, leaving the Conservative Party to get back to the central ground. And that will almost certainly mean abandoning the opposition and giving that job to the Lib Dems, who I'm sure would do it significantly better than this self-obsessed, onanistic and overspent Conservative Party. Jacob Rees-Mogg's idea hinges on the belief that the Conservatives and Reform UK, led by Farage, could form a united front to prevent Labour victories in certain key seats, particularly those where Reform UK placed second in previous elections. But the point is, Rees-Mogg and Farage are thinking about the next election. They really need to think about the now and their job now. Rees-Mogg is out of Parliament. Maybe he has the benefit of being able to indulge himself a little bit more, but to stand there like Amos or one of the 8th century prophets calling in the wilderness. But those people who are actually elected into the House of Commons have a job to do in the Conservative Party, and they aren't doing it because they're eyeing their next election and looking on the sort of never, betting on the never, which is Nigel Farage. I mean, 8 attempts to get into Parliament and he's finally got there. I don't think that's a sure bandwagon of success. Rees-Mogg argues that, similar to David Cameron's coalition strategy with the Lib Dems in 2010, the Conservatives should stand down in nearly 100 Labour-held constituencies where Reform UK stands a better chance of defeating Labour. While this notion has garnered some support among Conservative grassroots members, according to the polls, a third of the membership favours the pact. It faces significant resistance within the party leadership. All 4 of the Tory leadership contenders have dismissed the idea, focusing instead on winning back Reform UK voters independently, without any formal collaboration. Rees-Mogg's suggestion, though, reveals a broader tension within the party and is perhaps a little bit more honest. As a prominent figure aligned with the ideological fringes of conservatism and as a GB News presenter rubbing shoulders with Mr Farage, Rees-Mogg is positioning himself as a voice for the disgruntled, populist right-wing voters who feel increasingly disconnected from mainstream politics. But I hope a little bit of Rees-Mogg rubs off on Farage, because Rees-Mogg has a work ethic. Even if you don't like what he's got to say, I don't. But he has a very genuine work ethic. Rees-Mogg would not think twice about holding a constituency surgery. That is what he lives for, and he must be missing it badly. Moreover, Rees-Mogg's rhetoric is deeply critical of what he sees as an elitist global ruling class both in the UK and internationally. He positions himself as a defender of ordinary voters who he believes are being ignored by a political class that prioritises green policies, mass immigration, multiculturalism at the expense of national interests like steel and its role in driving up energy prices. These views reflect broader conservative grievances about the perceived excesses of environmental policy and the impact of globalisation on national industries and sovereignty. It is an extraordinary combination of ideas, elitism and sort of anti-snobbery, or inverted snobbery. Rees-Mogg's broader platform touches on themes of free speech, particularly his opposition to laws that he feels curtail the ability to criticise figures in public life or to challenge government-approved narratives. He says, if you want to call me scum, call me scum. This ties into his critique of the Leveson inquiry, privacy laws and online safety bills, which he claims threaten the constitutional principles of free speech and press freedom. I think from that point of view, he's probably right. By defending controversial figures like Angela Rayner, who once referred to the Tories as scum, Rees Mogg underscores his belief that open, sometimes harsh political discourse is essential to democracy, and I absolutely agree. Rees Mogg's pitch is one of populist conservatism, grounded in the belief that both his own party and broader political elites are disconnected with the concerns of ordinary people. His proposal for a pact with Reform UK is a solution to the problem he's identified. I think it's the wrong solution, but I applaud his identifying the problem. And what we've done is to trade one elitist government for another elitist government. Just the elite, the location of that elitism and that exclusion is in slightly different areas, but it is still an exclusive elite. His proposal for the pact with Reform UK may be unlikely to materialise at the moment, given the current Conservative leadership priorities, but I think there will be a growing move towards that, particularly should somebody be elected from the far right as the Conservative leader, someone like Badenoch or Jenrick. It's indicative of the growing divisions within the party and a wider dissatisfaction with establishment politics. His emphasis on nationalism, free speech, opposition to globalist policies will continue to resonate with a significant portion of the right-wing electorate, even if his call for electoral cooperation goes unheeded. So there's quite a lot to unpack from his appearance on the fringes of the conference today. But as ever, it's an interesting package that he proffers, and he's always worth listening to. So I recommend you have a look at what he's got to say. I don't recommend that you follow his solutions to the problems, but the problems he identifies are interesting, partly because they already existed in the Conservative Party, and I wish he'd called them out earlier, because what existed then is existing now, just in a slightly different form. It's about authority without proper responsibility and without proper accountability.